this in terms of bike summits, and we saw this around Walk 21. There are more professionals at the table than there are just activists. There are more disciplines here than were previously. It's a much more mixed group. So perhaps I'm the eternal optimist, but I do sense that this is occurring, and it's a case of being in front of the wave, on top of the wave, or in the maelstrom, and you can choose where you'd like to be.
I think it's also a generational thing, as you say, with the change. I know when I'm teaching, students get it. Yeah. It's starting to lose that credibility. Not always, as you get older, but there's a whole bunch of younger people who this is just what you do. The notion of getting on your bike, walking, riding, is the desire to have that license when you're 16. When I was 16, I don't hear that as much anymore. I hear more of a choice and variety. We'll go to the next question over here, please.
I have a question. We're getting a lot of support for change, incremental and kind of more fundamental change. I can think of two examples that are kind of Toronto-centric that might they're incremental in nature. I think that, for example, the University Street bike lane pilot project, my worry is that it's not going to be connected and there's not going to be anybody using it, and then it will be thrown back in the face of the movement saying, nobody used it, why we bother? And then the second one is kind of the bike share. Montreal went all out and they did 3,000 bikes at a time. And I'm worried that in particular is like something that requires a critical mass to be effective. So how do you overcome that incremental versus more fundamental shift to move the movement forward?
Well, I can start out on that a little bit. It's true that that's an issue because if you don't have a network, you just stick in one bike lane. Sometimes it won't get used right away, or people ride down it and then they come to the end of it. There's nowhere to go. One of the ways to get around that is through having that policy vision, so people really understand, and you can build the understanding that this is going to be a long-term project where you're building the network and people are going to see the pieces coming in at different times, and so that people really understand that, and it's not just like this one project turns up and people are like, well, what's that? So that they really understand it's in this bigger context. And sometimes those pilots can really work. I've actually been surprised in Washington, D.C. We have a bike share program. It's only 400 bikes. It's tiny. It's just right in the central business district, and it doesn't have a huge high profile, but people do know about it and people are using it. And I think it's built enough support that they are planning on they're going to work. Actually, I think they're looking at Pixie. They're looking for funding to create a much bigger system. So it wasn't portrayed as a be-all, end-all. It was like, this is a little pilot. We're doing it in this very small part of downtown, and they didn't have high expectations for it, and it still seems to be working.
I'm totally supportive of those two projects, but I just,
right.
I just worry sometimes.
But university does connect to 3 major east-west bike lanes. It's not disconnected, it is part of the network, and I think many people are forgetting that part. There's Gerrard Street bike lane, there's the College Street bike lane, and there's the Wellesley and Harvard Street bike lane. That's a major connector, and I think we need to remember that. It's not just a going nowhere. And the 1,000 bikes, that's a starting point for Toronto. Let's get it on the street. There's going to be demand and it'll expand.
And there's more coming.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think just communicating with people that bigger vision, and it's this one piece, this is not the end point. A lot of people who are not involved in the field like we are, they won't understand that incrementalism unless you're really explicit about it. It's like, okay, here's a map. Yeah, yesterday you saw this new bike lane put in, but here's the map that shows what else is going to happen later, so that people really understand that. Because otherwise, they won't. And Andy, you have an incremental.
But I want to address this because I think it's a really good issue. You got to build it. I mean, you got to start somewhere. And if you build a really good, robust facility on a big street, and that street can handle it, so everything else doesn't freeze around it, people will use it. I mean, there are thousands of bikes right now in downtown Toronto, right in this little area. You walk around, the bikes are everywhere. So people are getting down here on their bikes. And if you give them a really good facility to get down here, they'll use it. And Alana's right. There's other bike lanes. It will connect. It will build the network. More to come. being built in a vacuum where there are no bikes and there are no bike lanes. You're building a stronger facility in a city that has a lot of other facilities and a lot of bikers already. So I think, I guarantee you, if you build a really strong bike lane on a major street in Toronto, and that street can handle the capacity change of doing that, then you will get a lot of users. And it'll advance your point, because you just gotta start counting bikes.
Thanks, Andy. Christopher, you had something.
Sorry. I guess my point would be is how do you go out and support that infrastructure? Put the message out there that it's there, and some of us know where all the bike lanes are, but probably 75% of the population may or may not. And how do you go out and support it? And we got to get, if the city, I guess if you're going to do something, you go out and do it right? So educate the people that are out there. We do that for the automobile. Teach them how to drive. Some of us forget how to, but none of us forget how to ride a bike. But how do you navigate university happening? It might be a little intimidating for a few people, but how do you communicate that safety measures are there and that they'll be safe going down and coming in from wherever they live? They can connect off some of the east-west arteries that are there.
Thank you. We'll go over here.
I think that's a good segue for my question. I wanted to just ask about the difference between measuring progress and measuring effectiveness. Quite often working with municipalities, there's progress on plans, which is great, but the progress made isn't always effective. So if you put an on-street bike lane on a major arterial roadway, you're progressing, yes, but is that the most effective use of your limited staff capacities, your limited dollars? So I just wonder if there's somebody could touch on the idea of using baselines to measure effectiveness, or what indicators exist.
That's great.
Well, I'm so interested in this. It's a fantastic question, by the way. And I don't think we do it particularly well at this point in time. We all want to spend for impact and to be the most effective. And I think we have very traditional approaches to measurement, certainly in the work that I do around walking. And a couple of references have been made to Jan Gale and his enhancement of how we understand effectiveness. So it's not just about the number of pedestrians on the street, but it's also about the number of pedestrians who are sitting down watching other pedestrians and the kinds of seating that they have, and so it speaks to the more qualitative pieces around that. So to a degree or another, I think it's as much about baseline measurement as the conversation about what those baseline measurements are going to be and capturing them. Amongst the engineering community, qualitative data is a little iffier. And we have work to do in terms of capturing those. It's also expensive to capture a lot of those elements, because a lot of it's just human observation. It's not a counter embedded in the street or anything as simple as that. And a lot of our projects, frankly, don't get those elements built into them. And I think that's something that we need to shift around. It's a really good question of capital budgets, but it's a piece that we need to work in. And I think it comes into the whole conversation around pilot projects and understanding when in fact you have been effective. So it's not just about the miles of, I love we talked about some of the bike lanes, right? We've got we put X number of new sidewalks in, blah, blah, blah. And it's a progress measure, but I'm not necessarily convinced they're an effectiveness measure.
It seemed to me that if you use those effectiveness measures, you'll get more money to do more measures, right? It's a circle.
Sure, right. Like, at the end of the day, many communities understand numbers.
And it's interesting too, in the sense that it's one thing to measure its effectiveness, as you should any program. It's another thing to is the messaging. How do you get the messaging out of what its potential is and its hopeful success? Because that in turn spins back into more success and ultimately more funding, because at the end of the day, it's always a political. Someone's got to vote on it somewhere, which I think is another part of the discussion that we hopefully might get into.
I'll just add one piece, which is, and it's really complex. How do you measure success? How do you know that you're doing well? And the piece that I'll add is, you cannot do it based on the increments from your existing condition. That's a great way to do it in order to just understand your progress. But you can only measure success based on the vision of where you want to go. And you have to almost work it backwards. You have to know first where it is that you're going to end up at, where do you want to get to, and build your indicators on that end, and see how you're measuring up against that. And to echo Dan's comment, those indicators also have to be easily accessible. Ideally, you can recite them with your fingers, and people can understand them. You know, water quality, pedestrian counts, all of those are great indicators, as opposed to some of the more complex ones that nobody can actually access or understand.